25th, 2018 Hammond Plan Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If we'll all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would just ask that we have a moment of silence in respect to Mr. former city engineer Stan Dostotny and his service to this plan commission and the city of Hammond. If
Absolutely.
we could please, one moment
Thank
of
you,
silence.
Mr. Button.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Roger Brock.
Here.
Dean Button.
Here.
Nathaniel Harris.
Here.
Ann Hurst. William Hutton.
Here.
Robert Markovich. Juan Moreno.
Here.
Sharon Zaney.
Here.
Thomas White.
Here.
7 present. We have a quorum.
President White,
Yes.
just to point out for the record that Councilwoman Venez has stepped off the Plan Commission and has been replaced by Councilman Markovich.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes for the January 16th, 2018.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting from January 16, 2018.
And do we have a second?
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And do we have any old business?
There is no old business.
We do have new business. I'll try and get through this. CP-18-02, petition of the Hammond Redevelopment Commission to reclassify property at 7527 Kennedy Avenue from R1 Single Family Residential District to S1 Open Space and Recreational Facilities to operate and maintain a park with the city of Hammond. And thank you very much. Slipped my mind. And have the notifications been met?
Yes, they have.
Thank you.
Good evening to the Plan Commission members.
Good evening.
I will be presenting on behalf of the Redevelopment Commission as well as being the reviewer, assuming there's no objections from the Plan Commission.
No objection.
Thank you. The property that is being proposed for a rezoning has the address of 7527 Kennedy Avenue. Most of you probably should know it as the site of the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police building. It is located on the western end of, I'm sorry.
Dowling Park.
Dowling Park, thank you. I had a blank there. There's been many discussions as to what can be done to that property. The Redevelopment Commission, as the owner, has entertained some options that are going on. I think some of those options are still pending, but the property is currently zoned R1 single family. It's been zoned that since 1981, at least. And the FOP pretty much operated as I guess it would have been a conditional use at the time. With that, the property, the idea is to rezone the property to be consistent to the rest of the park and then develop that site, obviously for park purposes. So that, at this point, would conclude the presentation.
Any questions of the petitioner from the board members?
Mr. President, I would ask the petitioner if, just to verify that the land is now currently vacant of any buildings or structures on the site.
Yes, that would be correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board members? If there are no further questions from the board members, we'll open it up to the public for the public hearing portion of this presentation. Anyone in the public wanting to make any remarks, please step forward, sign in, state your name. Again, the public hearing portion is open. And finally, the last call for the public hearing on CP-18-02. And seeing no public, we'll close the public portion. And at this point, I guess I ask the staff to present their report.
Yes, I am now putting that hat on. Were there any other questions? Before I do the report, were there any other questions from the Plan Commission? We're all pretty clear on this? Okay. So as far as the staff report is concerned, obviously I've already identified where the property is. I've already identified that it is currently R1 single family residential, and the proposal is to change it to S1 Open Space and Recreational Facilities District, and as noted, it is currently vacant. The analysis is written in the report. There's a discussion of how this is addressed in the comprehensive plan. The plan at the time was recognizing that the FOP building was there, and there was, at that time, no expectation that that would change. So now we have a new situation, a new opportunity. Again, current condition, it's vacant in good condition. Desirable use, it is, adjacent to a residential area, but, it is kind of tucked in that interchange quadrant. It is separated from the interstate by the sound barrier wall. It is, for all practical purposes, a part of the park. One could not tell where the boundary line was except for that there's a fence there. So that location being itself would not make it really desirable for it to be used for single-family purposes. And then we have an opportunity to expand recreational facilities in the area, and then that would, of course, the responsible development growth would be to make the consistent zoning for the entire park. So staff recommends that the Plan Commission forward the petition to the City Council with a favorable recommendation. And if the Plan Commission agrees with the recommendation, the staff requests that this report be adopted by the Plan Commission as preliminary findings of fact.
And any questions of staff regarding the staff report and/or the recommendations?
Mr. President?
Mr. Button?
No question, but I would just like to add a comment that as city engineer, I am aware that the parcel has a multi-use path on it. So as Mr. Poland had indicated, it would not be appropriate for this to be single-family residential property because the path extends around the perimeter of the site, and so it makes sense to zone it as
residential.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns of staff? Hearing none.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would recommend that the Plan Commission forward this petition to the City Council with a favorable recommendation. I so move.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
And roll call.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Juan Moreno,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
yes,
Thomas White,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Mr. President,
Mr. Button.
I would ask that the Plan Commission accept the staff report and adopt it as a preliminary finding of fact.
Thank you. Could we have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Juan Moreno,
Yes.
Sharon Zaney,
yes,
Thomas White,
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Very good, thank you. New business, CP-18-03A, petition of Menards for, pardon me, for approval of final development plan for Lot 1, Menards Commons Addition, commonly known as 1233-165th Street, Title Section 8.90, and Title 27 of Ordinance 8514. The petitioner would please come forward.
Notifications?
I'm sorry?
Notifications?
No, I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep forgetting that. Have the notifications been satisfied?
Yes, they have.
Thank you.
I believe that's me.
If you'll please come forward, sign in,
Okay.
and if you could state your name and address, please.
Yeah, and Cole, did you have that drawing?
Yes, I do. You want to hand them out? I was unsure if I was which one I brought. Site plan, and I also brought. Well, I can't talk and write at the same time, so give me a second here, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. My name is Cole Helfrich, Helfrich. I'm with the firm Kanaki and Associates out of Geneva, Illinois. I'm here in lieu of Tyler Edwards, who is the real estate representative for Menard. He was unable to get here today because of weather. I was late getting here today because of weather, but here I am. The idea, as I'm sure you are aware, is to add new warehouse space on the north side of their Lot 1, which is going to involve redoing the walls, landscaping, fencing around the detention area, and constructing a new building on the north side of the site. As you know, we have one impediment, which is the removal of the building setback along there, where that has been affected by a zoning hearing. And I'm here, among other reasons, to present a abrogation of easement, or excuse me, abrogation of setback drawing that will formally remove that setback and revert this more properly to a zoning matter rather than a platting matter, because the setback was platted originally on the subdivision.
Okay, and Cole?
Yes.
We haven't called case B yet,
Oh,
so just focus on.
forgive me.
Just focus on the development plan.
Okay. So again, as you can see, let's revert back to the plan. I think it's pretty clear. It shows a new building on the north side, and I guess what I would probably be best off doing would be entertaining questions.
For the Plan Commission, when you're looking at your site plan that was in your packet and also handed out, you will see the red marks that show where the new warehouse building is going to be. It is in the place of the detention basin. We've already discussed on a previous, last summer case of the new detention basin on the north side of Kenwood Street. There will be some changes to the existing warehouse, but it will remain. And there are some changes to the store itself, enclosing portions of the garden center and some of the facilities in the, at the rear of the building. There are no other changes proposed to the building as it is.
Questions from the board members?
Mr. President,
Ms. Budd?
seem to be having all the questions here tonight. Sorry about that. I guess to be clear, we're being asked to recommend a change in the plat. Is that right, Mr. Poland?
Actually, again, the lat question is not, we have not called that case.
Beg your pardon.
That was my fault, Dean.
Right now, we're just discussing the site plan, the development plan.
So just
itself.
review of the site plan, thank you. And I have no further questions.
Thank you. Questions from anyone else on the board?
Well, I'll ask one, thank you. On the north side of this addition, is there going to be an additional fence to circumvent your property, or?
Yes, yeah, that will be screened.
Well, yes and no, Mr. Hutton. The fence on the west side will be extended northerly to, and then make a right turn to match up with the rear wall of the warehouse building, but there will not be a fence at the rear wall of the building.
Right, the rear
building
wall
will
of the
act-
building itself will be the fence for that length.
Okay,
Right.
thank you,
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutton. Any other questions from the board members? No further questions?
No, I'm gonna ask one more.
Feel free.
Mr. Button, have you looked at the drainage of this new roof and where that water's going?
Yes, sir. I believe we've taken some action previously to assign the drainage for this expansion as well as the balance of the development to north of Kenwood Street. So there's a new retention pond planned as part of this development, but not part of this plan review.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I guess I should be clear that we have reviewed it and we find it to be acceptable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just for the record, the Plan Commission did grant the final development plan for that detention basin, subject to some final details regarding the landscaping and the fencing of it, and then you gave the staff the authority to resolve that issue.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing no further questions, we'll move into the public hearing portion. If there's any member of the public that would like to express their concerns, questions, please come forward. Sign in and state your name and address, please.
Please.
It says business with order. Business with order on the end. Just leave that open.
Well, you wish to discuss this,
Well, I just wanted to ask a question about it'll be north of Kenwood, across the street.
Right. Sir, we need you to state your name and your
My
address
name
for the
is-
record.
My name is Willie Reed, and I live at 6309 Reverend Burns Drive,
Okay,
which
thank
is
you.
within 300 feet of the property.
Right. Okay, thank you.
And we was wanting to ask a question about it's on the north side of Kenwood, north of the building, in the front of the cleaners. Okay.
There's a retention basin, as we understand. Well, I guess
We was pretty sure that's where it was going, but we just wanted to know. Yeah, 6309 is across the street. We within 300 feet, but we don't see no problem with it. We were just wanting to know, from what he explained, it seemed like it would be in there, coming up toward Field Street. That's all we wanted.
Well, the detention basin is going to be right at Kenwood, on the north, just on the north side of Kenwood and Columbia.
It's facing us, 'cause we're right there.
You're at 63.
6309 Reverend Burns Drive,
Yeah.
which is across.
We on the
street.
south side of Kenwood. South
Oh, you're on the south side of Kenwood. Oh, okay.
And that would be on the north side of us.
Yeah, this is, yeah, it's on the north side, because they're on that Columbia, the property in front of Cintas, there's 3 lots, and this is the southern lot, and then there's a middle lot that's still vacant, and then at Field Street, there's a small open space lot.
We know, we understand.
Okay.
Just confirming.
All right.
That's all.
does the speaker, do you have a copy of this plat? Have they seen this plat as part of our public notification? Could we provide them a copy of this so that they can see what we're doing?
Yeah, we can provide that, yes, sure.
Would be a good idea. Yeah, if you could please give that to Mr. Reed.
So what you don't see there, sir, is north of Kenwood where the retention basin would go, but you can see the development in the red area in the northwest corner of the lot where the expansion of the facility is going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to step forward? Questions, concerns? Any other members of the public for the public hearing portion? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion. And I'll open it up to any questions. I think we've pretty well covered it previous to this, but if there are any new questions from the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to the staff report.
Okay. Referring to, or in looking at this case, I had to go back to the original Plan Commission approval, which was in 2008, and then there were some modifications in 2009. So in the drawing, what's in black, of course, is the 2008/9 plans, and then the red, of course, is the proposed changes. As was noted, the project did go through the BZA for 3 cases. There was a developmental variance for allowing the accessory building over the 15-foot height limitation. That's for that new warehouse building. The current warehouse also received that variance. Another variance was allowing for the height of a fence over the 6 feet limitation. Again, that was similar to what was granted in 2008. And then the developmental variance was to allow the setback of less than 50 feet, and the warehouse is approximately 22 feet from the Kenwood Street right-of-way. With this change, even though that detention basin is being removed, there is adequate landscaping around the rest of the property, so the 10% minimum is still met. And then even though on your drawing there's signage information, that is not at issue at this time. Those are the currently proposed signs, or currently existing signs. In reviewing a development plan, it's section 8.90, and then it cross-references to 27.04, and I go through the 15 items there. Several of them are not relevant to this case, but I just want to note those for the record. Staff recommendation. Overall, the development plan is an expansion of an existing development as being designed to be compatible in design and architectural character, which results overall in a harmonious, efficient, and convenient retail shopping center. Under the title section 2705, the Plan Commission shall make findings of fact, and those are presented there. For the record, 1, the development plan complies with the applicable standards of the underlying district in which the lot is located and has been granted the applicable variances at the December 2017 BZA meeting. 2, assuming the Plan Commission grants approval of the abrogation plat as Part B of this petition, the development plan will be in compliance with the applicable provisions of the subdivision control ordinance. 3, the proposed development is compatible with the architecture and character of the existing development and is therefore appropriate, and the proposed development occurs on appropriately zoned property as contemplated in the 1992 comprehensive plan. Therefore, staff recommends that the Plan Commission grant final approval of the development plan subject to 1, the approval of the abrogation of setback plat under Part B, 2, the finalization of any outstanding issues regarding the fence and landscaping of the proposed replacement detention basin, and 3, finalization of any technical issues regarding the utilities and the connection of the storm line that serves that detention basin that's proposed to be under Kenwood Street to that new detention basin on the north side of Kenwood Street. If the Plan Commission agrees, then this report as amended should be adopted as preliminary findings of fact. I would ask that you formally make a motion to adopt the written findings of fact that is stated in the staff recommendation, or combine it with your normal findings of fact motion, but I do want you to mention the words.
Any questions of staff or of the staff report or the recommendation is given? Any questions from the board members for staff? Hearing none?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I recommend that the Plan Commission grant final approval of the development plan, subject to approval of the abrogation of the setback plat under Part B, finalization of any outstanding issues regarding the fence and landscaping of the proposed replacement detention basin, and finalization of any technical issues regarding the utilities and the connection of the storm line under Kenwood Street to the proposed new detention basin. I so move.
Thank you. Could we have a second? Second. Roll call?
Roger Brock?
Yes.
Dean Button?
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris?
Yes.
William Hutton?
Yes.
Juan Moreno?
Yes.
Sharon Zane?
Yes.
Thomas White?
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Button?
I'm going to do the best I can here. I move that the Plan Commission adopt this report as amended, and fully adopt the written report as a preliminary finding of fact. Does that work for you, Mr. Poland?
I would just say, and specifically the items specified under 27.05.
Under items 27.05, I so
Very,
move.
very good. Great job. Could we have a second?
Second.
And roll call vote, please.
Roger Brock?
Yes.
Dean Button?
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris?
Yes.
William Hutton?
Yes.
Juan Moreno?
Yes.
Sharon Zane?
Yes.
Thomas White?
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Okay, moving on to CP-18-03B, petition of Menards for an approval of an abrogation of setback plat for Lot 1, Menards Commons Edition, commonly known as 1233 165th Street. And have the notifications been satisfied?
Well, I'm glad you asked the question, but in this particular case, there were no notifications required.
Very good. I was just checking, Brian.
I appreciate that.
Have the notifications that are required been made? Then that way you can't.
Future reference, thank you, David.
It's very rare that there are no notifications required.
Point well taken, Dave, thank you. And our petitioner, please come forward and identify yourself, name and address.
I'm Cole Helfrich. I'm with Kanaki and Associates in Geneva, Illinois, and I think I might have started here a few minutes ago. What this document is something that is not very common, and I doubt that anybody here has seen one. I guess I haven't seen one either. We were given a situation that the setbacks were, in fact, in function, abrogated by the BZA with those cases that Brian mentioned earlier. And so the setback is officially no longer there. However, because it was drawn on the original plat in 2009, it still exists as a matter of title, as a legal impediment. It's not to be enforced because BZA said it's not to be enforced, but it still exists on the plat. So Brian and I worked on this for a while and discussed it and figured out different things that we could do. And so what I did is I took it to a gentleman that I consult with who is probably the most prominent title attorney in the country. And I'm fortunate that he lives and works very near me. And so I've known him for years. It's a simple matter for me to call him on the phone and say, okay, Mr. Bales, what do we do about this? And this that you're looking at there is the result of that consultation. This, because the entirety of the land is under common ownership, either the Hammond, Brian, help me out. The
Hammond Redevelopment Commission.
Redevelopment Commission owns the two little outlots. Menard owns the substance of the shopping center. Therefore, all interested parties in the removal of the setback are owners of this land, and they are only two, the Hammond Redevelopment Commission and Menard. They both consented to this. We prepared this document with specific language wherein the two owners agree to the removal or abrogation of that specific section of the building setback line that is shown along the north side of the property on this drawing. So it's really pretty simple, and it's belt and suspenders, let's put it that way. It's a legal matter only. And we remove the setback in that section that is completely in keeping with the findings and the ruling on those cases by BCA. So this will probably be the only one of these you'll ever see, so enjoy it. But here it is, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Questions from the board?
Mr. President.
Mr. Button, please.
So I'm a bit unclear. My limited experience in building setbacks and zoning requirements. I would have expected the building setback line to be a continuous or contiguous, I guess, continuous line around the property. And so what you're discussing is just the northern portion of
Yes.
the building setback?
Yes.
And how do the ends of the existing setback line, how do they terminate? They just
May I
stop?
approach the bench?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that.
Good question.
Yes, you certainly may.
Can I'll hold it up while you're talking to the whole.
We're entering a kind of narrow legal area. What we've done is we've abrogated, or we intend to abrogate this portion of the building setback. This is what was agreed to. This was the spirit and the letter of the BZA findings. This document is only an abrogation of setback. If were I to draw a line from here to here, or from here to here, or any place else, it would be creating a new setback. Even though it's a little piece, it's still creating a new setback. That is not our intent. That is not what we are trying to do here, and this is not the avenue to do that. A building setback, fundamentally, here's my term. A building setback is a zoning matter. Defined by zoning ordinances. It is managed, removed, added, moved, adjusted, enforced, not enforced, all is a zoning matter. The building setback properly should never have been put on this plat in the first place. Because as we see, the application in 2009 of this building setback is causing no end of trouble. Because it is not a plat issue. It is a zoning issue. So the reason, good question, and I knew somebody would ask this. The reason that I do not draw a line here or here is because this is an abrogation of setback. It is a made-up document with strong legal foundation, but it is not granting new setback. The setback, and really any setback on this property, is subject to environmental appeals. So anything, Menard comes back and says, we want to put a building right here. This document's going to have no effect on that. It will strictly be BCA. This document was not intended to, and is not effective for adding any lines. That's all I got.
Why would you not abrogate then all of the building setbacks?
We discussed that, and so if, under the surveyors, or when you look at the surveyor law, it actually says that in a plat, we are supposed to put setbacks on it in our state, okay? And if you look at our certification language on plats, it actually says that building setback lines are, I forgot what the exact wording, but building setbacks, setback lines are on there. And then it goes on to say, if not shown, they are then subject to zoning. So, as a practical matter, you really do not want to have setback lines on there because of the situation we are in right now. There are reasons, though, that you do want to have setback lines because setback lines often can become build-to lines. And so there is, depending upon the circumstance, a reason why you do want to have that. I look at my neighborhood, and all of the houses are set back 30 feet. And zoning in my district would be 25 feet. So it would be very awkward to have a new house constructed closer to the street. Even though zoning may allow it, you would want to have all the houses set back at 30 feet so there's a consistent building wall. So that's a reason why you'd want to put a setback line on a plat.
And to take that one step further, if somebody did want to build a house at 25 feet and it would be allowed by zoning but not by setback, they would have to get a sign-off from every owner in that block or that subdivision before they could do that, which is fundamentally what we've done here. It's just that the owners are only two, Menard and
Right.
Redevelopment Commission.
I mean, why are we not eliminating or abrogating all of the setback lines on the parcel? Why only the north?
Because the BZA only acted on that one.
Because that was a request by the petition.
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Any further? Mr. Hutton? I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Since this is gonna be the only time I'm ever gonna see this in my whole life. Let's hope. And I'm sure, I trust that there might be a couple other of my colleagues here. Can you please explain what abrogation means?
Abrogation is, again, I went back to my legal advisor, and he said that is the correct word, as opposed to vacate, extinguish. Oh. I'm not doing very well here, am I? Thank you. Thank you. An abrogation, it's a legal word of art. It means fundamentally the same as vacate or extinguish or remove,
Release.
release,
Repeal.
repeal. Yeah, it's, those would seem on the surface to be interchangeable, but Mr. Bales says use abrogate. And he's much more wise than I, and so I used abrogate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutton. Any other questions from the board? You have another?
No,
Oh,
but thank you anyway.
I thought sure you had another. So, hearing no other questions from the board, we'll open up the public hearing.
There is no need for a public hearing on this.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Poland. Staff report, recommendations, please.
Okay, I think we've thoroughly discussed the issues. This is just intended to remove the platted setback line that corresponds to the northern boundary of the lot, the portion that is parallel to Kenwood Street. And therefore, the staff recommendation, the abrogation of the setback does not interfere with any of the utility easements. The BZA has granted the developmental variance. Removal of the setback line from the plat would be in concert with the BZA approval. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the abrogation document, and if the Planning Commission agrees that the staff request that the Planning Commission adopt this staff report as its findings of fact.
Questions of staff regarding the report or recommendations? Any questions? Hearing none.
I beg your pardon, Mr.
Mr.
President.
Button.
So, Mr. Poland, we on the plat, we want to show that the line in particular has been abrogated. We don't create a plat with the setback line missing then, right? We want to show the plat with, as is. We would not create a plat that just doesn't have a setback line on it, correct? So we've defined what action this board's taken and recorded that. Does that?
Could you ask that again?
So we have a document that we are considering approval, which has a line that calls for to be abrogated, this line to be abrogated. We would not create a plat that would just have nothing shown there, right? I mean, the purpose of this drawing is to reflect what action this board is.
Right, I mean, that's where we discussed the option of doing a re-recording of the plat. And because of all the other things that are on the plat, there was a series of utility easements that were shown on the plat, released by documents after the fact. It became a little bit more complicated and became a messier drawing. Ideally, I think the re-subdivision would have been able to solve all of our problems, but we felt this was the simplest way of doing it without overcomplicating the situation.
Mr. Poland, may I add? Sure. Mr. Button, the purpose of this document, as I may indicate, or hopefully indicate at the beginning, was to place something of record that would abrogate the setback. So therefore, should this be approved, executed, and placed of record, it would then enter the chain of title with this land. And any subsequent plat, be it a plat of survey, should Menard convey this to somebody, and the plat of survey would show building setback abrogated per document 201800 blah, 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 blah. So it would, the purpose, the real nut of this is that we're placing this in the chain of title.
Thank you.
So no plat is needed right now, and any plat that should ever follow of any type will show this abrogation.
And not to
Great.
not to belabor this, BZA actions are not normally recorded.
Right.
So that is one of the reasons why
That's
we
the
talk
exact
about,
reason.
making sure there's something in the chain of title.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nothing further.
I guess we'd move on now?
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait, I do. I've heard several comments referring back to zoning, Board of Zoning Appeals, et cetera. So we have the authority for this commission to establish a setback?
Yeah, may I?
Actually,
Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
Okay, your question is your question of, say your question again.
It's okay. We're placing a setback line on a document, but I've heard several comments refer back to this is a zoning concern or a zoning issue. So my question is truly, does this commission have the authority to define where this setback line is?
Yes.
Okay.
And the point of that is that we are not now putting setback lines on. We did in 2008 put the setback lines on the plat. So all we're doing is removing this one line because of the directly related BZA action.
Well, there's only one user on this side of the street, and I'm in agreement with it. There's no question about it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hutton. Any other questions, concerns? Hearing none,
Mr. President,
yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the abrogation document as presented.
And do we have a second?
I have a second.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Roll call?
Roger Brock?
Yes.
Dean Button?
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris?
Yes.
William Hutton?
Yes.
Juan Moreno?
Yes.
Sharon Zany?
Yes.
Thomas White?
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
And we would need a final motion regarding the findings of fact.
Mr. President,
Mr. Button?
I would request a motion by this plan commission to adopt the staff report as a finding of fact, please.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Roll call.
Patrick Rock,
Yes.
Dean Button.
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris.
Yes.
William Hutton.
Yes.
Juan Moreno.
Yes.
Sharon Zany.
Yes.
Thomas White.
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Okay. You're all set, Cole?
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And Brian, do we have any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Any comments from the commissioners? Staff comments?
No staff comments, but there, except for the fact that there will be a March meeting.
And what was the date?
March 19th.
19th?
We're going back to a Monday, March 19th.
Okay.
Can't stay with
And any public comment? Hearing no public comment,
Move to adjourn.
a motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir. I move to
Thank-
adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Button. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you, everybody.